Spoilers. What's up, guys? The guy with the pencil here, and here we are to do a long-form spoiler discussion for chapter 269 of Jujutsu Kaisen, which is known as, I don't know, denouement, whatever. But regardless, this chapter, it's weird to say it has a lot and a little. But like, on a macro sense, it has very little. But on a micro sense, it has a lot. So we have a lot to talk about. So let's not waste any more time and let's hop right into it. And ding me, are you ready? 3, 2, 1, go. What's up, guys? The guy with a pencil here. Fun fact, I do happen to have it on me and keep it on me at all times. That ain't another fun fact. I was admittedly interested in seeing what Gege would do. Notably, when he ended Sukuna halfway through 268, I thought a lot more pertinent stuff was gonna be happening. But ultimately, if there's one thing I will readily admit about this chapter, because after thinking about it for a while after recording the short spoiler discussion, it feels somewhat inconsequential. But I suppose, what do I really expect at this point, right? Because it's over. As far as we know, the series of JJK is over. These last 3 chapters, if anything, are a formality. So like, I feel strange. Once again, this is going to be something that'll change probably more and more once I think about the chapter throughout the day, after I sleep on it, after I consider everything about it, and obviously once the translations come out and I do the live reaction over on Patreon, which you check out for as low as $1 a month, or you can member for as low as $3 a month to check out the live reactions. But I don't know. I'm in a strange limbo-esque state right now. Like, it's hard to crystallize my thoughts on this chapter fully. They're mostly neutral. I'm not going to say positive. They're mostly neutral. But with that being the case, that's the thing. And I say mostly neutral because they're not exactly positive, but they're not exactly negative. But let's actually hop into the chapter itself. We open up and we see Mei Mei visiting somebody. I believe this is some sort of store. I don't know. Once again, this is the only page I have that doesn't have rough translations built into it. But this is Mei Mei meeting a very particular old woman. The design looks familiar, but I think it's because Gege draws all old characters pretty much the same, with a whole bunch of wrinkles and a very similar face shape. But still, Mei Mei visits this character. This will be important later. But with it being the case, we open up and we do get to see that it was in fact Maki who was calling Yuta a jerk last chapter, and other more profane words if you were reading the rough translations or the, I think even the TCBs. But ultimately, Maki is getting on Yuta's case, as she claims, "Hey, you! Just because you're back in your original body doesn't mean it's all sunshine and rainbows." About that, Maki-san. Hey, Megami, how's it going? One thing I will admit, I'm fine with it. But once again, this is where I've been like flipping back and forth. The feeling of mixedness about 268 has not faded. Like, if anything, it's intensified over the week break. But my feeling of mixedness about 268 carries on into here. And it's mainly because of the same issue I had with 268, the characterization. Here's the thing. It's weird to say it feels like character regression for Maki. But I guess, because that's the thing, right? It's the 50-50. Because part of me feels like Maki would not be talking like this after slaughtering the entire Zenin clan and just winning the most intense battle of her life with everybody else, especially when her friend is actually safe and sound within their own body. It just feels weird on that level. 2, you could maybe do the thing, but I feel like it would be characterized differently based on how Maki's been post her awakening. Like, this feels like JJK Zero Maki, like early JJK Maki. Essentially, it feels like pre-Zenin Clan Massacre Maki. And we know post-Zenin Clan Massacre Maki, even after her liberation, is still quite, like, stoic and curt, even with people she cares about or people she has some sort of connection to, based on how even pre-Zenin Clan Massacre, we see a Maki post-Shibuya, and even with Yuta, she's much more curt and relaxed and simple. And since Yuta's fine, I don't really get this explosive, crazy reaction. I don't know. Especially since, hey, I hate to say it, it is all sunshine and rainbows. Yuta's fine. He's not stuck in Gojo's body. He has his own body back. And unlike Kenjaku, he will not have to maintain the binding vow on those scars. So eventually the stitches will just come out. He'll heal. So I don't get this first part. Once again, I'll chalk this up to rough translations and my own feelings about how Maki was treated by the narrative as a character. Don't get me wrong, if in terms of narrative weight, I will readily admit Maki got about what she needed and about what I expected, though it is a little bit less. But then again, I obviously am a Maki meat muncher, so I had higher expectations for Maki. But seeing her, I'm not going to say reduced. Essentially, Maki's going to be the big what if character. And a lot of this chapter is going to be characters explaining, hey, Maki, that's kind of dumb. Or hey, Maki, that's kind of stupid. Or hey, Maki, here's why you're wrong. And like, you have other characters that could have done that? That feel like they wouldn't have compromised their characterization. And notably, I feel like Maki's the only character in this chapter to be somewhat weirdly out of character. Because everyone else is fine. Even Yuta with his reaction here to Maki is fine. It's perfect. Once again, Yuta, dare I say it, as much as I like the character, he hasn't changed. That's the one issue element I did have with the character. Outside of that one moment with Ryu where he decided to enjoy battle, that one time, he's kind of still the same guy he was over 269 chapters ago in JJK 0. Like, he's still just the same dude. And that's okay. Once again, you can have static characters, but his reaction is fine. But, of course, I suppose I actually should tackle it, and not just Maki's characterization, Yuta being back in his original body. I'll go more in depth in a second once we get to the explanation of it, because I feel like it's a little weird, it's a little bit wacky, it's a little bit goofy, but we'll see. Not weird, and you know, I take that back. It's not weird, wacky, and goofy. I think it just, like, caught me a bit off guard. But with it being the case, we see that the first years walk in, and ultimately Maki does a melee break character and goes, hey, Megami, how's it going? And you know, here's the thing, right? It's what I would want versus what I will admit is sensical writing. And that's the big coin toss I do every single time I discuss or read Gege's work. It's like, you could have handled this in a more interesting way. But if we're going by the utilitarian function of getting the manga done with, yes, this is fine. It's how I feel about 268 as a whole. Like, yes, everything in 268 is somewhat in character for all characters involved, or extremely in character for all characters involved. And honestly, everything's handled well enough that I can't explicitly get mad at it. Because it makes sense with Gege's more optimized and streamlined version of writing. And this is how I feel here. You mean to tell me not a single person has even the slightest bit of resentment towards Megami? Like, I know, it's not his fault. But Maki, you got hit with 2 black flashes because of this. You almost lost Yuta Okotsu, who either A, in some interpretations, is your best friend, or B, based on interactions in this chapter and some interactions that have been 0, your love interest, because of Megami refusing to reach out. So I don't know, the blasé reaction. And here's the thing. One thing I'll readily admit, it actually is in character for Maki to have such a blasé reaction. I suppose that actually fits in line with her more post-Shibuya, post-Hidden Clan Massacre characterization. Because I guess it doesn't really matter. And that's the thing I keep finding myself hard-pressed to believe, but someone laid it out perfectly in a comment on a few videos back. I'm not sure if it was the 268 review or the 267 review, but someone pointed out something that I think I was finding it hard to believe and I struggled with. Technically, none of this mattered. And not in the sense that, oh, the whole world wasn't at stake. It clearly was. But, like, it is kind of just their job. It's their job to stop incarnated sorcerers. It's their job to stop the killing games. It's their job to stop Sukuna. So, yeah, sure. Did they perform a feat that, for all intents and purposes, was legitimately impossible? Absolutely. Did they lose Satoru Gojo, the strongest sorcerer today? Absolutely. Did characters undergo extreme physical, mental, and psychological trauma that will never be undone? Absolutely. But once again, fitting into Gege's more streamlined and optimized writing format, especially when you only have 3 chapters left, yeah, there's no time to explore how characters would feel about Megami. Even if it is unjustified for the fact that he was taken over improperly. There's no time to really explore or see things. We're going to have to be told a whole lot. And that's what the chapter is a whole lot of telling. With some showing. There is some showing in this chapter. And that's just kind of it. And notably, I'm still sitting in the camp that Gege's writing is not bad. Or like, even mid. I think the writing behind Yuji's journey and the subtle writing behind Sukuna as a character, and the writing of Satoru Gojo, even the writing of Suguru Geto. I think many characters in the series, heck, even the writing of Big Jaku, and the Millie, that's just anything, but the writing of Big Jaku, all that. I'm personally in the camp that the series has good writing. I've seen a lot of people jump ship on JJK and be like, it's ironically enough, I've seen people jump ship off JJK's writing. I jump shipped off MHA's writing well before it ended. But many people kept on riding that ship well until after it ended. And I still haven't changed my mind on that. But, in fact, Azaratha HS made a fantastic review of part 3. The third act of My Hero Academia up until the ending of the manga. So if you want a beautiful 3.5 hour video to watch, with fantastic editing, and is literally just my thoughts about the third act put on paper or put to video form better than I ever could, go watch that video. It simultaneously inspired me to make my own videos talking about it, and at the same time discouraged me because I know I can't make it that good. But with it being the case, all that to say, I get it. But it feels so weird though, right? It didn't matter because it's just their job. But at the same time, it mattered because the world was at stake. And it has lasting physical and mental effects on them. It feels like that. But I guess that's right. It's not, but I feel like it should be so cathartic though. And ultimately, it doesn't, the characters don't really make it feel cathartic. I guess in comparison, for example, for anyone who's watched my videos and has worked, and I think that's most people, at least just based on my demographics, anyone who's watched my videos and worked, you've had your slow days, and you've had your intense days. And I know, after some of my intense days, some of the most cathartic things I've ever done is just relax, detox, hang out, and then retroactively look back on that day. That's how I feel like this should be handled. Defeating Ryomen Sukuna, Urume, and Kinjaku, 3 threats to literally the entire planet as we knew it. Not literally, they're not going to destroy the planet, but the merger, very dangerous, Sukuna very dangerous, Urume very dangerous. I feel like there should be more, but that may just be me. What do you guys think? Do you guys think, once again, and it's weird, let me get further into the chapter before I really start going off. And of course, I will have to compare and change all this once the better translations are out. But we see when Maki asks, "Oh, hey Megami, how's it going?" Megami says, "I'm feeling a little bit hazy, but is this really the effect of infinite void or unlimited void?" I'm glad it's addressed, but man, unlimited void with it being this, and then again, that's the thing, it's so strange, we have no concept of time. How long has it been since they defeated Sukuna? The chapter doesn't say. At least as far as I know in these rough translations, it does not say. It may have been a day, it may have been 2, it may have been a month, we don't know. But with it being the case, where's the brain going? Unlimited Void seems to have one of the hardest fall-offs. It started off at its most broken upon its introduction, it just kept getting worse and 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 worse. That's it. A little bit hazy. Broski took the brunt of what? Upwards of 5 unlimited voids for upwards of 3 minutes at a time. And all he feels is a little bit hazy after having his soul stuffed with literally infinite information for upwards of 10 minutes. Non-consecutively, but still 10 minutes. Isn't that sad? I don't know, it feels, especially considering how powerful just a 0.2 seconds of exposure was. I know Megami's a sorcerer, so he can walk it off better, but man, it feels so hollow. But still, I don't know, I feel a little bit weird about that, but hey, it's acknowledged. And you're going to hear me saying that a lot, where I'm like, oh, okay, whatever. But hey, at least it's acknowledged. I don't like how it's executed, but I get how it needs to be executed to end the series in 3 chapters. I get it. You could explore more about how Megami feels about getting hit by Unlimited Void, how it affected him. You could do way more, but hey, we can leave it. And we see that Megami explains, I really want to apologize to everyone properly. And ultimately Maki says, save it for later. You've got nothing to apologize for anyway. Legally speaking, yes. Logistically speaking, no. Like, Megumi did not take Yuji's hand when presented the opportunity. He should feel some guilt about that. And, well, I love Maki. Maki's speaking for everyone who decided to come out and risk their lives, and the 3 who died in order to save him. Yeah, I think he does deserve some people an apology. And Maki, I'm glad you don't care. Other people would. If I was in the Shinjuku showdown and barely managed to survive by the skin of my teeth against the King of Curses, I would want my apologies from his stupid vessel. Obviously, I've come to like Megumi more, so I don't actually think he's stupid. But still, I would want a little bit of an apology. Maybe more than a little. But with it being the case, we see ultimately that Megumi's kind of blown away that no one cares. Like, no one cares that he was possessed by Sukuna and he did all that bad stuff with Sukuna inside of him. No one cares. And Yuji says, hey, I got my own reasons for feeling a certain type of way, but it's fine. And we see that Kusakabe explains, it all started with Gojo's blunder of sparing Itadori's life. And now he's tangled up with those cursed sorcerers behind the magic mass. By the way, I was totally on board with the death penalty of Itadori. If it weren't for Yaga-san, I wouldn't even be here. But I don't think it's wrong or anything. Each truth is like a beautiful mystery, or a beautiful tapestry, woven together to create the now. So you guys don't need to feel guilty about anything. Seriously, kid. Just act your age. You're making it tough for us grown-ups. When the option for interesting character exploration and the idea of how Megumi would handle the guilt of all the actions that he, by proxy, committed through Sukuna controlling him, I think it would have been neat. Absolving him of everything and having every other character from Kusakabe to Maki be like, yeah, dude, it's fine, we don't really care. It feels so strange because this is the same mangaka who had Yuji go through an entire character arc that felt about how guilty he was for doing all the things he did in Sukuna's body, or when Sukuna was controlling him. He felt guilty about that. We explored how that made him feel. We explored the reflection on. We did something about that. We saw characters' positions change on Yuji. Kusakabe being one of them, where he's like, nah, I fully approve the death penalty for Yuji, because he's clearly unable to control. So we see another case like that for Megumi. And Kusakabe, the same character who was a perfect example of how opinions could change regardless of those who was controlling the body. And it's like, yeah, whatever. You're a kid. Be a kid. And sure, once again, this does not suddenly erase the trauma, erase the negativity, erase the hatred that exists in Megumi Fushiro's heart. He's like going to be haunted by that for the rest of his days. But still, it feels, once again, it feels like Gege's just zooming. We need to touch on the fact that Megumi would feel guilty. Let's wrap it up immediately. We need to touch on the fact that Yuta's back in Gojo's body. We're going to get more into that. We need to touch on the fact that Megumi was hit by a limited void, and since it affects the soul, it should have had some lasting effect on Megumi. We're touching on that, and we're moving on. It feels so clinical for a story that before was not afraid to get analytical, if you know what I'm talking about. And here's the thing, it's fine to be sterile. It's fine to be clean. It's fine to look at things and run things objectively, especially when you're wrapping up as quickly as you can, but I don't know. I still feel a little iffy. But with it being the case, we see that ultimately Yuji asks, alright, all this is cool and all, I guess since Megumi's not guilty, I don't feel guilty, we're gonna glaze over all this character stuff. What's the point of Yuta being back in his body? How did he do that? And Yuta explains it like this. I'm gonna read the whole thing out because it does still feel a little bit weird to me, but I think I do have a general idea. Thanks to Rika-chan. I thought our connection was lost when she didn't stick with Gojo-sensei's body. In reality, Rika-chan repaired and maintained my body, which was treated by Ieri-san using reversal techniques. I thought we were done for when Jaku's technique reached its limit. So, those panels we saw of Rika holding Yuta's body was literally him being held together by Rika. like full sail. She was holding him together. Now, do I think Rika healed him? I don't think so. The husk is still technically a cursed spirit, and cursed spirits cannot output RCT as far as we know. And with Shoko being mentioned explicitly to heal the wounds, I do genuinely think this was a Shoko operation for the most part. But still, Rika getting to do something, including saving Yuta. Am I cool with Yuta being alive? Absolutely. Like I mentioned in a previous video, he represents the next generation. He represents the future. The next strongest will show up today. So he kind of has to live to play that part. And the integration of Rika and the husk and how that interact, like all that is fine. I'm down with it. Like I said, I'm fine with Yuta being alive. Would I have liked another major body on Sukuna's sheet? Absolutely, especially now. But it's far too late for that. And that's the thing. I find it harder and harder to critique this ending because I'm like, what did I expect him to do when he gave himself a hard deadline of 5 chapters? Yeah, whatever. But with it being the case, we see that Meme mentions that was a bit of a miscalculation, huh? I heard that Shoko was even able to act in the first building incident. He probably divided it into multiple techniques intentionally. Seems like the application of barrier techniques. Beating that isn't gonna match much freedom. Something along those lines. But essentially, once again, we're touching on something and we're explaining it. It seems that the reason Kenjaku or Big Jaku was able to use domain expansion without immediately clapping over it and incurring the burnout is because of how he applies the technique. Where'd my brain go? Sorry, my brain completely left. But essentially, the way that it works here is that Kenny ended up applying the cursed spirit manipulation technique or gravity, whichever you think his sure hit is, to the domain. And with that being the case, his technique is still running at all times. And ultimately, he shut his own domain down. So he could essentially choose, okay, I imbued my technique into the barrier. I'm putting the barrier back on into me. And thusly, all should be contained. He still enters burnout, but the primary technique that he uses is still running active, which is the brain hopping technique. But with that being the case, we do see, ultimately, but after the technique rebooted, Rikichan is an external technique, reconnected with my body, in a quasi-death state, so that's how I got here. Sorry for worrying you all. But honestly, I couldn't care less about that story. The real issue is whether Yuta managed things well enough. We could have won much easier, you know. Now, this is where we get into the what if part of the chapter, and it's the catch-22 of this chapter, right? Because part of me is like, who cares? It's over. Show me something else. Address things that are actually important, like the culling games, which does not get addressed this chapter. We don't know when we don't know if it's ended. We don't know if it was taken care of. We don't know if the Kogane are still waiting, if they're all on the verge of death, because it's been a little bit. We have no clue about how much time has passed, what's up with the culling games, and what's up with Tengen. That none of that gets touched on in this chapter. Weird. Booga bonkers. But with that being the case, we go into what if mode. And this is where, once again, I mentioned Maki feeling weirdly misplaced in terms of her narrative role as like a hypothetical alternative exposition machine. And here's the thing. Part of me is fine with it because I believe in Maki. But once again, I find it strange that we're discussing this, considering everyone important except for Choso and Kashimo and Gojo. And so essentially, Gojo, everyone important lived. As Maki brings up the idea, first, it's Kenjaku's surprise attack. I should have been the one to take care of this. And then there's Higuruma's executioner's blade strategy. If I had combined this with remote curse words, victory would have been a breeze. I should have let Higuruma handle the voice recorder. So, essentially, Maki brings up 2 alternate scenarios. One where she is sent after Kenjaku. Now, I know certain commentators are going to be like, oh, here goes Pencil with the Maki meat munching. Here we go. Absolutely, you know I gotta munch. But since I'm gonna munch, let me munch appropriately and say that Maki could have done it. And in my opinion, Maki could have done just as well as Yuta and Rika did, mainly because of how fast she is. And the fact that no curses that Kenjaku would spit out on his deathbed would have been able to really do anything to Maki. If Maki can keep up with all of Sukuna's slashes, she can cut up a couple cursed spirits, y'all. Fresh upon her awakening, well before she understood what she was doing with her body, she slaughtered how many grade 2 and below cursed spirits that were in the Zenin clan cursed spirit location? How many? In an instant, to the point where her father got like 2 steps away before feeling it. Yeah, I don't know. But with it being the case, I think Maki could have done it. And I think she could have done it, sliced his head off, taken on care of all the curses, and been done with it. However, I'll readily admit, Toto brings up a good point in the idea that Maki could not be a target for Boogie Woogie. And the main reason that Kenjaku went down as easily as he did was a combination of Takaba and Boogie Woogie disorienting him enough so you could immediately go for the decapitation. Sure, Maki could have performed the same swing, and arguably it would have been more lethal with SSK and more guaranteed. Who knows? Maybe Yuta's blade would have broken against Kenjaku's neck. Maybe would have been able to pull out a cursed spirit. Maybe something would have happened in time that SSK would have been able to entirely ignore. But considering the other half, the other point of Lake Gosho Colony wasn't just to, you know, I don't know, hypothetically, maybe. Where'd my brain go? See, this is what happens when I record early / way too late. My brain just completely falls off a cliff. But essentially, Toto just explains, I can't swap you. And Kenjaku only went down that easily because of the swap. So since Maki has no cursed energy, she could not be swapped. That's fine. I get it. And, oh, sorry, there we go, I remember. The real point of the Lake Gosho Colony was to train Toto up, to get him ready for his 1v1 Sukuna, and to help you to defeat Kenjaku. That was it. So if Maki's there, who is switching? what pressure is there to do? Wait, see this? Gosh darn, I get on these tangents, and then my brain just immediately falls off a cliff. But ultimately, Toto does the explanation, says he can't switch Maki. You'd had to be there. You'd had to remove Kenjaku's head. Fine, whatever. Also, Rika's power was apparently necessary to do all that. I personally still don't think so. I think Maki's fast enough. I think she's strong enough. I think she could have done it. But still, that's fine. The second idea, stupid. Once again, I don't get it. I don't get the mention of the first idea, because sure, even if you could have done it Maki, it doesn't matter. I'm not sure exactly where you would reintroduce Yuta earlier. You do want to move more sequentially than non-sequentially when fighting against Ryo and Sukuna. For the second idea, Maki. How long have you known Inumaki? Years at this point? You mean to tell me you didn't think of the blowback? Like, the whole idea that Inumaki should have been there for Higuruma's plan, just as stupid as it was when people were saying that when it first happened, it is stupid in any other context. Because Ryomen Sukuna was too strong at the time, Inumaki's throat would have exploded and he would have died for nothing. Like, I don't know. I don't see the. It's like Nobara coming back earlier. Resonance may not have done anything if Sukuna was anywhere near or close to his full power, full soul stability. But since he wasn't, bada bing, bada boom. So I don't know. I don't know why Maki suddenly forgets how CE efficiency and CE interactions work, unless it's for the audience, which I think it is, because notably this doesn't seem like a character or an in-character question for Maki to ask, but it makes sense for Gege using Maki as a reader surrogate in order to answer, if you know what I'm saying. And that's a little silly. A little silly. But with it being the case, we see that the explanation of what I mentioned with Cursed Speech, the blowback, how Inumaki could have just died for nothing, all that, is explained by Panda. If you think I'm reading Panda Decks, I was about to make a reference to a manga I'm reading right now, but let me not, because the manga has just got an anime adaptation announced, so I won't talk about it. But essentially, Panda, that filthy, disgusting, horrific mongrel, essentially explains for Inumaki to Maki why Cursed Speech wouldn't work. I know he's just acting as a translator, but still, the idea that Maki had to tell Inumaki that, or Inumaki had to tell Maki that is... let's just say it's bad. But with it being the case, Higuruma was alive. And Higuruma's alive, bro. He's alive. No. Higuruma's alive. How do I put I'm not gonna sugarcoat. I kind of don't like it. So it makes it that's and that's where I always find myself, specifically with Gege. I personally don't like it, but it makes sense in a roundabout way. I previously justified the 4 major characters dying previously before it was confirmed Higuruma was alive in 269. I said Gojo, Kashimo, Choso, and Higuruma all represented an older era than our current modern cast. This is a world they could not live in. Gojo could not live in a world without Sukuna, and so on and so on and so on and so on. But with it being the case, I find myself perplexed, bamboozled, right? Because I didn't explain that properly. But also, I find myself perplexed and bamboozled because I put it, because I don't want to like scare off the Higuruma fans. I feel like Kashimo represents the older era, Gojo represents the older era, Higuruma represents the older era because of his lawyer status and older gentleman stature. But at the same time, I get it because he's technically a baby sorcerer with a lot of potential. He could become the Omega potential man. It's like he could be this new strongest or whatever. But I don't know, man. I kind of really like the idea that Yuji swung with all his heart, gave Higuruma his due, respected all that, and Yuji just watched Higuruma fall, sword in hand, and all they just didn't do much. I don't know. It feels strange. I'm thinking so hard right now. I'm gonna have to sleep. I'm gonna have to sleep on it. Higuruma, good or bad thing, the fact that he lived, it takes off another body. It takes off another body from Sukuna. But Gojo's an important enough body, and Higuruma was never that important as a body. Choso is a middling body. He's important in the fandom, but I feel like he's not that important in the narrative. I don't know. He only has 3 now. Our big bad final villain, he only has 3 in the big bad final arc. He slaughtered how many named characters did he slaughter pre-Shinjuku Showdown and in Shibuya? He's one off. He got Ryu and Yorozu pre-Shinjuku Showdown, but post-Shibuya. So I don't know, man. It feels so strange. But hey, Higuruma's alive. Let me just take the win. Let me just take the win. I'm fine with it. And that's the thing. I like happy endings better than like sad or bittersweet endings. But with it being the case, it just still feels strange. Strange to see him, man. I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm very tired. If you cannot tell by my like consistent like breaks in logic and break in thought processes, I'm extremely sleepy. But I do want to get this out. I want to get this recorded so I can export it while I go to sleep. So then when I wake up for work, I can get this uploaded. But with it being the case, Higuruma surviving against all odds is once again due to Sukuna being stupid. I made that video. A lot of people didn't like that, called Sukuna stupid. He's stupid. He managed to survive against all odds because Sukuna didn't take him seriously. As he says himself, and let's not forget, curse words are pretty easy to counter, right? I was the one who decided we should only use our techniques within Okotsu's domain, where no outside threats lurk. After all, no harm can come to anyone else. Still, it's downright terrifying that someone who's only been a sorcerer for 2 months is still breathing. What a prospect. I suppose I should say that I managed to survive against all odds. And that's the thing. Give me 1 minute. I'm gonna hard formulate a thought. It's fine. There we go. There's the 1 minute pass. I was like, 1 second. I'm fine with it because Higuruma is just a sorcerer of 2 months. He is an older gentleman, but he still is a child in the world of sorcery. And the whole theme of Sukuna is that he took down all the relics of the past with him. All the relics of the past, all the relics of previous sorcery. Gojo, a relic of an ancient past. The scion of one of the big 3 clans. Kashimo, the extremely powerful ancient warrior, one not from any of the big 3 clans, but from a warrior so focused on battle and history that's all he incarnated for, specifically a battle with Sukuna. And Choso, a remnant of the past, once again a CW who ultimately is an embodiment of ancient ideas and once again a scion of one of the big 3 clans. So it's fine that he's okay. I'll take it. I'll take the dub. I'll sit down quietly. But with it being the case, we see that Maki, after getting, and that's the thing, it feels so weird. She keeps getting proven wrong. Even though I agree with her on the idea that she could have done what she needed to do to Genjaku. Toto comes in, corrects her. Sorry, Maki. Then, okay, maybe you could excuse Toto because she doesn't think about her own immunity to cursed energy since she hasn't had that for so long. She could be viable for Boogie Woogie much longer than she could not be viable for Boogie Woogie. Okay, we can let that slide. You don't know how Inumaki's abilities work? If you've known for how long? Okay, Maki. A little bit strange. And then we go with this. We bring up the hypothetical. That's for an ace. If those guys had been here from the start, things would have been totally different. How? Like, maybe you were cooking with the Inumaki thing. You weren't. But at the same time, maybe you were cooking with the Kenjaku thing. Even though ultimately I think inserting Yuta earlier is actually genuinely a mistake because he would be more fatigued and then he probably wouldn't immediately be able to open domain. Unless you argue Higuruma. Maybe here's the thing. I can see an alternate timeline where if Maki was sent to take care of Kenjaku and she just had to take like 5 minutes slaughtering all the curses herself with SSK, exercising them all, like she did at the start of Sakurajima and at the start before the Zenin Clan Massacre, then maybe you have Higuruma inside Yuta's domain. While Sukuna's forced to hold Hollow Rigger Basket. So there's that. Then that makes it even worse. I think technically, yeah, Maki's right on the first one. She misses entirely on the Inumaki thing, just like a lot of the fandom did. I ain't gonna lie. A lot of the fandoms only wanted Inumaki to be used earlier as if his throat wasn't gonna explode. And bringing up Miguel and LaRue just feels weird. I mean, I'm happy they're getting mentioned. They did contribute. Admittedly, Miguel did no damage to Sukuna, and Sukuna did no damage to him. And LaRue did grab Sukuna, but at least LaRue led into Yuji's first Black Flash, which got him on the roll. But we see everyone make this funny meme, dark-eyed face, looking at Yuta. But, like, it's not like Yuta wanted them to wait. He asked them to come as soon as possible. Miguel himself specifically made a deal. I think Yuta goes on to explain that here. They said those two wouldn't show up. But they did say maybe, right? If they do come. Not too shabby. So yeah, ultimately, you just trying to explain it was never a guarantee that they'd show up. But, like, they did. So that's the thing. I feel bad for Yuta, and I don't know. Maybe because the Akuna Lana could have been shared, I guess? And maybe certain characters could have lived or fallen in different ways because less damage. I don't know. I still feel like it may be a Miguel exclusive thing. And when Miguel doing literally 0 damage to Sukuna, other than burying a fist in his already damaged chest cavity, I don't know. I don't really see what Maki's cooking here. And it just feels weird. But with it being the case, there we go. I'm getting a little bit of my consciousness back. I'm going to be struggling at work. But with it being the case, another instance of, hey, let's tackle it, let's address it, because we're in the end game, we might as well. Those gauntlets that have bothered me since they were introduced because they seem way too unique and way too powerful for some random curse tool, they're just random curse tools. These were apparently gauntlets Yuta had in his inventory the entire time. Why are they able to resist dismantles? I don't know. Why were they able to tank a full output level shrine? I don't know. Why did only one of them break after Yasukuna just got his technique back while his output's in the garbage? I don't know. And I don't think Gege knows either. But I'll take it because they're addressed. It bothered me for the longest that they weren't addressed. So now that Gege addressed them, I'll let it slide. Not happily, but I'll let it slide. At least they got mentioned. I don't know where Yuta got them from though. Where did he get any of these curses? Are these also from the Gojo clan? I don't know. Some sort of history, some sort of reason why they're so durable until they weren't. I don't get it. I really still get it. Okay, but hey, once again, like I mentioned, I am gonna keep saying it a lot. It's Gege knowing something, acknowledging it, and moving on. But admittedly, this is one of the more things I'm fine with because it's an item. But still, would have been neat to know the origins of it to explain why it was so durable and why specifically so useful against Sukuna, especially when considering there were more interesting options. Some people thought it was blood armor, some people thought it was something else, but ultimately it is just random gauntlets Yuta had. And it's weird because the previous random gauntlet Yuta had broke on one contact with an ice missile. None of Yuji's attacks did that. Not even his fist did that. But, well, we don't know. But still, I don't know. It feels so strange. However, we do get to see that ultimately, they ended up watching the entire Shinjuku showdown in Rika's mouth. Interestingly enough. I guess for the free transportation, I suppose. It's just, it's just funny looking. That long jaw right there. Like, Rika, if you don't want to chew your food, would that be the case? They watched everything inside Rika. And that's the thing, right? This chapter, I keep saying it, this chapter is wrap up. It's acknowledgement. Did you wonder? Admittedly, I don't think anyone really cared nor wondered, but did you wonder where everyone was when Gojo vs. Sugino was happening and they were all watching on those jumbo screens inside Rika? Like, that's it. I don't know. Once again, it feels so like, oh, bullet points I need to hit. Let me hit them before I hit you. And we see that Rika not only is the storage container for that, but ultimately, gosh darn it, where is it? Oh, Toto ends up taking the blame for the domain expansion, ultimately not being able to save Choso. I'm glad Choso does get a mention here. He's a character who actually did get got and stay gone, and hey, big ups to that. But with that being the case, such intense energy that we couldn't suppress Deckard's powers. So ultimately, Toto explains there's too much curse energy lingering in the area. He didn't know where Choso and Yuji were, so he couldn't swap them out. But everyone else essentially got out safe and sound with the crows. But with that being the case, we see that Ito even ends up being impressed with Yuji. He says, I was right in the thick of it too. But Yuji swooped right in and took care of things quickly. So I guess I share some of the blame. It should have been the clothes that saved us. And we see Yuji say, and it looks like a panel that's copy and pasted from somewhere else, but maybe twipping a little bit. But that's that late at delirium kicking in. But if it came to that, I would have been the one to perish. It's nobody's fault. Yeah, and that is interesting. I mean, it'd be like that sometimes. And we see that Maki's like, hey, it's not like I want to pin this on Yuta either. I got hit by a black flash twice after all. It's just that this guy, and this thing, I don't know what Yuta did wrong. I guess he planned poorly, but all of his contingency plans ended up working, Maki. Except for the Higuruma one, but even then he made Higuruma lose an arm. It all helped in the great rally. I don't know. Maki. I don't know. I love you, Maki, but it hurts my core. And we see that Panda and Inumaki are like gossiping over the idea of, oh, look at Maki all up on her man. Who is it? I don't care. That's a lie. I do care. I'm a Yuta Maki shipper. I'm sorry, all my Nobu Maki fans out there. More of a Nobu Mai guy myself. But, hey, they're cooked up. But still, I like both No, I was about to say something horrible. I'm about to say I like both partners in my fiction to have depth perception. Not death perception. Depth perception. Unfortunately. Wait. He doesn't. Shoot. But with it being the case, we see that Maki drops a topic. So she's like, I guess all these what ifs are pointless. And once again, I do kind of believe that's Gege just speaking through the audience or speaking through the characters in the narrative like, yeah, I know. It's relevant. Any of your what ifs, any of your ideas, any way you think you could write the story better than me, you're wrong. And hey, I agree. I don't think I can write the story better than Gege. I can just write a different story. But with it being the case, we get the explanation of everybody's roles, everybody and what they did. So Miwa was the Maki savior, Kusakabe was the fight reinforcement, Momo was the transport. She used the bloom, the broom that she was gifted, and ultimately everyone else just is what they're doing. What are you talking about? Your broom was super comfy to ride. I was planning to take on Sugin after dealing with the Higuruma, but now things are tough. I was shooting right up until the very last moment, so I can't say much. So, yeah, it's a weird limbo saying. Hold on, let me take a sip. Probably a sip will wake me up. Wake up! It's not the first of the month, but what was I gonna say? Oh, and everyone once again mentions where they were, why they didn't seem to contribute to the Sugita fight. Momo was transport, Memi was observing, Kusakabe did end up fighting, Hikari was fighting Arume, and Nobara was asleep for most of it, and obviously could not help, because she's still kind of far. But still, we do get to see that ultimately, in spite of all their self-critique and self-complaints, Uyui's like, I'm him. I backpacked y'all, Y'all are whack. Y'all are trash. Y'all should be. Y'all are dumb. And he's right. Our cast wouldn't have gotten as strong without him and wouldn't have had as many chances without him. I wouldn't say he's the MVP. I'd say that's Gojo and then probably Yuta and then probably Yuji, or you can flip Yuta and Yuji around depending on how much you value long-term immediate or short-term immediate damage or long-term... What's the word I'm looking for? What's the word I'm looking for? Gosh darn, what is the word I'm looking for? I completely forget. See, this is what happened. My brain just shuts down. Well, it seems everyone has their own reflections to share. Yeah, I just completely forgot. But with it being the case, you get to see that Uui brags and is like, Kirara, you're too slow, you're too weak, you're too far, and proceeds to run off. But with it being the case, Akari has to hold Kirara back from curb stomping him with the sneakers, as ultimately Mei explains, and I'll admit, since the brain is not braining right now, I'm gonna summarize a whole chunk of this, because considering there's a lot of intense text, and there are like two major reveals here. Number one, Kusakabe is the current owner, the current head of the new Shadow style. He's the best, he's the structured one, he's the best domain user. Ultimately, he has inherited it, but he didn't inherit it by himself, he inherited it through Mei. That's why the cost of the new Shadow style symbols domain ultimately ended up being 0 or negligible enough that Mei could cover it all, aka 0, because she knows Kusakabe. Number two, the whole thing about balance and stuff like that, making sure you do all this, it sounds very video game language to me, but the other thing is Mei brings up the idea that ultimately, hey, the clans are going crazy. They're getting a little bit chaotic right now. Everything's gone haywire after Sasori Gojo got sealed. But I know you're the head of the Simple Domain School. Give it up to me, who will give it to Kusakabe, who will give it to Uyui in order to do whatever he wishes, dominate. But with it being the case, there is the idea of a clan war happening. I don't think so, though, because we don't know enough about the Gojo clan, maybe. And there's any clan that straight up doesn't exist, and the Kamo clan would barely exist as well. So I have no idea. The Gojo clan was curb stomping, I guess. And also, the idea of, gosh darn it, brain, think. What is it? What is it? No one could possibly know. Oh. Tengen gets dropped here, but I don't think this is a concrete acknowledgement of future Tengen. I think this is an acknowledgement of Tengen before even the Gojo vs Sukuna battle. So I don't think this counts as addressing Tengen, the Blob, or the Merger, or the Culling Games. And ultimately, there's no real hesitation to get down and dirty and D's with it. So, brain, we're almost there, brain, wake up, wake up, just a little bit longer, please, brain, please, wake up. Sorry, I had to hit the Chewbacca on him. But with it being the case, Mei purchases it by slaughtering the old lady, because she was the former head. She gives the rights over to Kusakabe so Uyui can monetize it. And the main reason she does this is because of the weakness that is now existing in the Jujutsu world with all the great big three families falling apart. And also, above all, they're trying to tarnish my brother's name. This was bound to happen. So, unless I'm mistaken, unless there's a rough translation, unless it's wrong, this does confirm I'd say pretty long-held theory that Mei and Uyui are in fact Gojo clan members. They've always had the white hair, and I looked up Mei's eyes in the anime. They are not, they're not blue, but still they are a color that I could see being left behind, and the whole Gojo clan being in hiding and being the ones that take over everything now that the Kamo clan and the Zenin clan are either weakened and or don't exist. Now would, in fact, be the time to go absolutely crazy. And Mei being related to Gojo, I think it's neat. I think it's fine. I don't think this sets up JJK Shippuden or anything. I think it just sets up a future. And that's the thing. I feel like in these next, or these last two chapters, we're just going to get, like, future stuff. So overall, incoherent babbling mess. But a W chapter. I don't know. Once again, I'll have to sleep on it. When I'm actually coherent, we'll see how much better I can like articulate my thoughts on this. But for now, if you made it all the way to the end of this video, please do me a favor and leave sleepy eyes. Leave, I almost want to say leave Slensel, like sleepy pencil, but leave sleepy eyes in the comment section down below. And then thanks so much for watching. Please remember to leave a like, share, comment, and subscribe. Make sure you hit that notification bell so you not miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also, I do happen to have a Patreon down below where you can support me for as little as $1, get a month, no month, things like exclusive videos, early content, and more. So now become a member of the channel for as little as $3 a month to get the same perks and more. Those perks include the live reaction to this very chapter, ad free variations of all my videos, and becoming a $25 patron or a $25 member, and a $25 member. You can order whatever video you want. Also, I do have a link to my Ko-Fi in the description down below. You can drop 5 beats for a short video, 20 beats for a long video, or any beats at all. Any support is always greatly appreciated. Now, I'd like to thank you so much for watching once again, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is that guy with the pencil, writing off. I'd like to give a thank you to our $3 members: Sierra, Greyhound, Eternal Flame, NMA, Real Rare, Red Wolf 4765, Paris Arnold, Astro, Brandon Payne, and G Prosper. And I'd like to give a thank you to our $5 patrons: Sean, Midnight Lord 21, Kevin, Encarnacion, Josh Brown, Igneal Lind, and A+A. And I'd like to give a big ol' thank you to our $7 members: Autumn Mornings Lazo, Fine, Zombie Hunter, and Austin Wimberly. Then I'd like to give a thank you to our $10 members: Robbie Uchiha, Jay Warrior, and AZ Void. Then I'd like to give a big ol' thank you to our $10 patrons: Overlord Zero, Joaquin Munoz, and Idem Okami.
And I'd like to give the craziest, juiciest, most next-level, quadruple, sloppy, toppy, next-level superhuman in beyond this world kidney having thank you to our $100 patron, or that guy with a pencil tier patron, Calvin Elder.